All right, I think I'm live. I can't see my face for some reason. Oh, there we go. All right. There's a little bit of a lag. I've got to, nobody's here yet, so I got a second, and I'm going to go in, and I'm going to change the thumbnail, because I don't stream. I stream so rarely that I don't know how to set up a stream properly. I'm not, people might look at me and say, Chris, you're an old man. You're an old man. You don't know the fancy technology. But let me tell you, I know technology well. I just never bothered to really fully pay attention to this. So, because I just don't live stream that much. So I haven't gone in and really figured out how this works. So I don't know. I'm going to maybe I'll do a little tutorial online, figure out how to do these things properly. But I'm going to wait for more people to come in. But anyway, we're talking about Donald Trump's CNN craziness, the CNN town hall, which I don't call it a town hall. I call it the Interruption Hour with Donald Trump. Man, that was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. All right, let me see. I got to look through my thumbnails here and go to Trump. There we go. There's my thumbnail. Done and done. Saved. Okay, beautiful. Mr. Reagan live stream. Now everybody will know what I'm talking about when they click on that, hopefully. All right, so as we wait for people to stream in here, I'm curious what you guys have to say. Somebody's written... New Order 11 writes, Trump shredded that town hall. And that's absolutely right. And that was going to be my point. Thank you for ruining my point, New Order 11. You jumped in there before I could, but you're 100% right. That's exactly what I was going to say. Trump nailed it, says Emily C. with a cat emoji. Emily C., I agree with you 100%. Somebody said, turn your volume up. Well, what if I just yell? I think my volume should be fine. Okay, all right. Pump up the volume. All right, I have a thing. All right, let me know if that's better. Last time somebody asked me to turn up the volume, I did, and then they said, well, now it's too loud. All right, hopefully that fixed it. Ian gave me $5, and he says he was on fire and made CNN look dumb. It could have only been better if he called her fake news. I know that would have gotten a scream from the crowd. I'm going to give you guys my... Crazy White Boy says, I can't hear you. Oh, you know what it might be? You know what the problem might be? I might not have the right setup here. Let me have a look real quick. Just to make, there's always some kind of an issue with my audio. There's always some kind of an issue with my audio. All right, let me know, guys, if this is better. I think this should be better. Great. Now I can hear you. Sounds good to me. All right, different people have different... ideas about this. Sounds great. Here you find. Okay, so I don't know. There's always some kind of a problem with my microphone. Okay, look, I'm going to start doing a live stream every Thursday. So tomorrow is the day I should be doing my live stream. Will I do a live stream tomorrow? Maybe I will. Maybe I will. I wasn't planning on it because I was going to do a live stream today about the Trump thing, but I will consistently start doing live streams every Thursday. And so we're going to talk about the news of the week, and I want to hear from you guys. It's primarily why I'm doing it. I want to do a live stream to hear what my fans have to say about everything, because you guys are smarter than me most of the time. I told Gorka this the other day. We're chatting now. I was like, I'm always surprised by how brilliant my fans are. They should all have their own YouTube channels. I guess the only reason I'm blessed to be able to have a YouTube channel is because I got a halfway decent voice. And when I bothered to comb my hair, I took a nap today. When I bothered to comb my hair is kind of good, right? So, all right, let's just get into it. I think we got enough people here. Let me give you my thoughts on the Trump. Okay, somebody's writing me here. I got to get back to it. Let me give you my ideas about the CNN Interruption Hour. That's right. It was not a town hall. It's called the Interruption Hour because CNN doesn't want to let Donald Trump talk. They don't want to give Donald Trump airtime to say what he really thinks and what he really believes. No. All they're looking for is to try to back him into a corner, get him to say things that, they can use against him in campaign ads, stuff like that. So it's the Interruption Hour with Donald Trump on CNN. It was a hit job. Now, I wrote a tweet immediately as I started watching, and I wrote, wow, this chick will not stop interrupting Trump. And then I paraphrased basically what she said early. She's like, look, we don't have time to talk so much about voter fraud. We have a lot of questions to get to. She kept interrupting him, trying to get him to stop saying that there was voter fraud, trying to get him to stop saying, what he believed about the validity of the 2020 election. She kept trying to stop him. And she was like, look, we got a lot of questions. We got to move on. Now, my next question is about voter fraud. Like, she immediately went into another question about voter fraud. And it's like, well, okay, so he's not saying the things you want him to say, so you're going to ask him another question about the same subject to get him to say something that you think might sound worse or something like that. I don't know. Donald Trump was so poised throughout this whole attack. I mean, really, it was an attack, and the answers he gave were so measured and so brilliant. I remember at one point she's like saying, how would you end the war? Like, how would you win the war in Ukraine? How would you win the war in Ukraine? How would you win the war in Ukraine? And he kind of gave some kind of an answer about, I don't think the war would ever have began had I been president. I don't think it would have happened. And she's like, yeah, but how would you win it? And he's like, look, I don't like to look at it in terms of win or lose. We just have to end it. We have to end the war. We have to negotiate an end to the war. And she's like, she's like trying to trap him, here's the thing. What Trump's saying is common sense, right? She's saying, do you believe that Vladimir Putin is a war criminal, right? She's trying to trap, these are gotcha questions, right? She's trying to trap him into saying something like, oh no, I think Putin is a great guy. He's like, oh no, Putin made a mistake. She wants him to take these positions on things that could potentially get him into trouble, is what she's doing. But the thing is, he's not wiggling his way out of it in the way that a normal politician would, by saying something that sounds sort of like, in the middle or muddy or not clear. He's saying things clearly, but he's saying things in a very measured way that is accurate to what he actually believes. Because Trump isn't doing this. Trump isn't doing the president of the United States as a politician. Trump's doing it as a businessman. He's doing it as a problem solver. Okay, we've got a business here. This product isn't selling. How do we fix that? Or do we eliminate the product? Whatever it is, right? So he looks at these things as problems. He's like, what's the best way to fix them? So he's not effing around with this whole like, oh, I got to sound correct. I got to put the politics first or whatever. No. He's coming in and he's just saying what really needs to be done. So he did a beautiful job. Hold on. We got a super chat here from Shane Kina. Shane writes, even if you hate his persona, his policy sounds really good. Can't kick the can any longer on debt or foreign aid. Tell countries to defend themselves. All of that is correct, Shane. I agree with you 100%. Oh, sorry, Shane Kina. Shane Kina. I don't want to mispronounce anybody's name, even though that will happen here because my brain doesn't always work 100%. All right, let's have a look here. What I noticed, what's interesting is they picked like one of the cutest girls at CNN to interview him. And that certainly was not by accident, right? Like, she's obviously not the most qualified person to do this interview, but she's very cute. And I think that people at CNN, it's funny, the left blinds themselves to reality with their delusions. And one of the delusions they have is that Trump is a sucker for a cute girl. Well, we're all kind of a sucker for a cute girl, aren't we, guys? But that doesn't mean that we become drooling idiots. We're not 16 anymore. Like, we could deal with a cute girl giving us questions. And what's funny was I think that they thought that this was going to catch Trump off guard. He was going to be nice to her because she was cute or something like that. Oh my God, Trump just mopped the floor with this chick. Like, she did not have a chance with him. She tried her best. She tried to be, really hard on Trump. She was super annoying. She was horrible. She was horrible. But she wasn't able to affect the outcome that she wanted, which is to get Trump to say something stupid or, to make him look bad. I think Trump still looked presidential, looked strong. He controlled that town hall, despite the fact that she tried her best to derail it. Let's see here. All right. Yeah, I wrote, They put a cute girl in the moderator chair, and Trump obliterated this woman. That's how I heard it. True. Rhetorically obliterated. He didn't physically, in case any leftists are out there watching going, that's a lie. He didn't obliterate her. The Ashley Babbitt mention I thought was gold. It's interesting. She kept pushing him on election fraud. She's like, stop talking. I need to interrupt you. You can't keep talking about election fraud. You can't keep talking about election. So I got a question about election fraud, right? And then she goes into January 6th, which is obviously related to the election fraud situation. She goes into January 6th and she says I don't remember what the question was. She asked something about, how do you feel about the insurrection or what, that kind of nonsense, the rioting on January 6th, something. And she's like, people were injured. It was terrible. It was this horrible thing. And he's like, you know what? Somebody died on January 6th. It was Ashley Babbitt. And that was a beautiful moment, because that is, I think for Republicans, we look at that as a really terrible injustice. Obviously, it's an unbelievable injustice, the January 6th protesters that got arrested. And I wish when somebody had said, will you, as president, will you, what do they call it when you pardon? Will you pardon all these January 6th people? I wish he would have just said yes. I wish he would have just said that. Boom. Big applause. It would have been great. He was measured. He said really what he would do, which I think is obviously the sensible thing, which is like you look at each case and you say, okay, if this guy actually was doing something horrible, yeah, maybe, he shouldn't be. So you can't say for 100%, yeah, I'm going to pardon everybody. I wouldn't even do that. But just for the moment, just for that rhetorical moment, I would say, yes, I will. And the reality is I probably would. If I became president tomorrow, I would probably pardon every single January 6th protester because that whole thing was absolute BS. We all know that. Let's see. Somebody named ND, they don't have a full name here, has given me $10. Oh, sorry, ND 1997. And they've written, this woman was insufferable. Notice the questions from the audience were what people really cared about versus CNN's gotcha BS that benefits no one. Yeah, I don't know if they thought that was going to help them in terms of their own audience. Like, they wanted their own audience to perceive CNN as tough and being like vicious against Donald Trump or something like that. And I think that they felt like they need to give equal time to Trump and Biden or something like this. I think this is maybe why they did the town hall so early, because they think maybe it'll be irrelevant down the line, and they'll get all Trump stuff out early. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. I'm not really sure. I don't even think that the cable networks have an equal time stipulation, right? Isn't that just like NBC, CBS, the broadcast networks? I'm not sure how that works. All right, let's have a look here with my other notes. I've written, everything was engineered to try to get Trump to say something that would hurt him. I mean, I said this early on when I was talking about this, but yeah, I mean, this chick was definitely trying to destroy Trump, right? She was it was all gotcha stuff. It was all like, could you say something that we could use in an ad against you? Come on, just say one little thing. Come on, And man, the interruptions were, I honestly think that if you want, and Trump dealt with that so well, I feel like if you want people to hate you and you're a journalist, right, like in CNN, this is how you do it. You just, you find somebody that you want to interview and you just be a complete dick to them for a full hour. Of course people are going to hate you. Of course people are going to be irritated. This chick could not have made herself look more annoying or worse. But Trump handled it beautifully. He wasn't even really rude to her. So he was very calm. He was very poised. There was one moment, which we'll get to, which was awesome, by the way, where Trump just owned this chick. But for the most part, he was just like totally measured, totally chilled. He would just keep talking if she'd interrupt him, or occasionally he'd let her interrupt and he'd take her question or he'd respond to her. But this chick took almost no questions from the audience. There were, like 3 or 4 questions the whole time? Maybe there were like 5, but I barely remember the questions from the audience. I barely remember them because it was all this chick just bickering with Trump every time Trump would say something. And so finally, of course, she was interrupting so much. She was interrupting so much that when Trump finally called her out, the audience exploded. There was this uproar. Yeah, because finally he said something to shut this up, like, oh, God, she was annoying. And everybody was just feeling it. Like, it was so stressful watching. It's just like, shut up, woman. Just let him talk. And I believe what he said was, you're a really nasty person, you know that? And then everybody just went nuts, you know? Oh, Tom Christopoulos, I know you, Tom. Thank you so much. $20. Love this guy. The 50-plus cases of voter fraud were never heard. He did not lose them, says Tom. Yeah, I mean, I can't discuss that on YouTube, really. All I have to say about that was the 2020 election was perfect, and there was no voter fraud or anything like that. And, you know, Joe Biden won fair and square. No, really. No, really. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Tom, I totally disagree. Couldn't disagree with you more, Tom. All right. Not Chili Boo Boo. Not Chili Boo Boo. I love that name. Writes, hello, Mr. Reagan. I just wanted to know, did you save the mole after it was removed? Okay, you got to laugh out of me, man. All right. After it was removed, and if so, have you thought about having it reattached? No, I'll tell you what happened. Actually, this is your fault, you guys. This is your fault that I got this mole removed. You guys all said this could be, not everybody, but there were people who were like, hey, this could be cancerous. You got to get that checked. So I was having some other thing done at the dermatologist. I said, can you check that for cancer? I didn't say all my fans on YouTube, but I said people had, maybe I did say that, you know, I'm an arrogant SOB. Anyway, I was like, could you check for cancer? And she looked at it and she goes, that's not cancer. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. So we talked about the other stuff that I needed to discuss. And then finally she was like, you know what? If you go home and I go home tonight and I'm thinking about my day and I think about that spot, I'm going to wonder, does this guy actually have cancer? Did I just send him to his death, like, by ignoring that? I'm like, I should probably take a biopsy. I was like, yeah, whatever you got to do. So she cuts a little piece out of it and she looks at it. She's like, it's not cancer. I'm like, okay. But then she's like, but you know what? It's a little bit changed now. Like, I cut a little bit out of it, so it's like a little bit of a reverse Pac-Man thing going on. And she goes, do you want me to just remove it? And I looked at it. You guys got to understand, I never had that growing up. That was a very new thing when I got older. When I got to be about 40, that thing popped up. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. Just remove it. So she just removed it. So it was kind of just like a spur of the moment thing. It wasn't planned. It wasn't like a cosmetic. I don't know. I wasn't. You know, I've never had any kind of cosmetic surgery. Have I? No, I haven't. Except for like my wisdom teeth, I guess. Is that cosmetic? I don't know. Braces. I had braces when I was young. All right. So moving on to relevant stuff. Thank you, Not Chili Boo Boo, for completely derailing this whole thing. All right, let's get back on topic. All right, there were very few questions from the audience. Finally, he calls her out. Look, this is what I would have done. This is the whole time, because everybody's just dying, waiting for Trump to just call this woman out, who's like so annoying the whole time. What I would have done is, I think fairly early on, I would have said, as she keeps interrupting, I would have said, you know what, actually, the problem with this town hall is, there's a little bit of a problem here. I feel like you're not interrupting me enough. Maybe if you could interrupt me a little bit more, maybe the whole thing would get a little bit better. And then you wait, because, you know, she's a little bit embarrassed, right? Maybe she backs off. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she keeps interrupting like a psychopath. So then what you say is, listen, lady, I tried to be nice to you, right? I tried to make a little joke about it. Yeah, it was a little bit of fun. But you didn't get the hint. And you kept going after me. You kept interrupting me. So here's what I'm going to say. You got to back off, all right? You got to let me talk, right? Because this is going to make you look terrible, and it's going to make me look good. And that's not what you want. I know that's not what you want. So let's make this agreement, right? We know that you don't like me, right? We know that you don't like me. Everybody knows that. We know that you disagree with my politics. So every single time I say something that you disagree with, or you think is a lie, or you think you've got to fact check in real time, let's just all assume what you think, right? Let's just all agree that we know that you disagree with me and that you think that what I'm saying is a lie and all that stuff. Just about everything I say. Let's just assume that, okay? And then we don't have to be interrupted every 6 seconds, all right? We get it. We understand your politics. We know you don't like me. All right? Can we just move on? Can we just talk? Can we just do this a little bit smoother without the interruptions all the time? That's what I would say. Just call her out directly. To me, that's the best thing. I think Trump was worried about looking like he was being mean to a woman or something like that, because the press always says that. But I think that's the kind of direct intervention that's necessary in those cases. I don't know if you guys saw this town hall, or if you watched the post analysis by the CNN guys. But man, they really went after Trump. I mean, they were just like, the first lie started within 15 seconds, and it was just lie after lie after that. He just continued to lie. We know what the campaign's going to look like. It's going to be lie after lie after lie. Well, you know what? We know what CNN is going to be like when Trump goes to campaign, because CNN has been basically bleeding out since they've not had Trump to report on, right? So they do this town hall. Now they got something to report on. They go right back to where they were. I wrote, they fired Stelter, they fired Cuomo, they fired Lemon, and still they got these leftist hacks at CNN just blatantly lying. You see that once Trump is 100% on the campaign trail, 100% of the time, right? That CNN will go 100% anti-Trump 100% of the time. It'll be the anti-Trump network once again. That's what I wrote. This is the last note I wrote. It's crazy, man. Like, you could kind of think like, all right, these guys are trying to reform. They're trying to be mainstream now. They're like really mainstream, like down the middle, like not biased. And actually, you heard somebody say, I forget who it was in the analysis. She goes, oh, we've discovered that Trump's not just willing to lie on the friendly networks like Newsmax and Fox. He's willing to lie on the actually like middle of the road network, she called it. And I literally laughed out loud. There's nobody in my apartment but me. I laughed out loud because middle of the road, what is she she's pretending that CNN has no bias, right? Which it kind of used to be. Like, they used to be pretty much, they used to bring on conservatives, and of course they were always leftist, but they always tried to present somewhat of a balanced view and tried to hide their biases. They don't even hide their biases anymore. They just hate Trump. They're anti-Trump. They blatantly lie. You know, they don't cover things like, you know, the Hunter Biden laptop story. They don't cover things like what's going on with Joe Biden now and the scandals that are plaguing him. So I don't know, like this kind of pretend nonsense that they're middle of the road, I just drives me nuts. Anyway, I'll leave it to you guys now. I'm going to read some of your comments. So let me know what you guys think about the town hall. I don't know if you guys watched it or whatever. Yeah, you can derail the conversation with questions about my mole again, but I prefer to talk about the Trump stuff if possible. Okay, Don Juan is talking about my microphone. I wasn't. Thank you for the advice, guy. All right, Christopher Levick writes. I don't know who Blake is. I don't know who Blake is. Let's see here. So I guess this is somebody who's in my comments that doesn't like me. I'm trying to find this Blake guy. Oh, here you go. I don't know. All right, sorry. I'm trying to read you guys' comments. It's hard to find the ones, if you can write like my name in it, if you have something to say about this. If you just write Mr. Reagan, I think I'll come up on here with the relevant questions or comments about Donald Trump's town hall. Deb B. wrote, I just looked at CNN and there are only 3 short videos of Trump, less than 3 minutes each. That's funny. Like, yeah, it's interesting. They announced this town hall. They promoted it. I watched it. I don't know how many other people watched it, but yeah, are they going to bury it because Trump was too good? It's a good question. I'm going to do a video. I think I'm going to do a super cut of all the interruptions. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but I might write my editor and see if he can do it. But my idea is to do a super cut of all the interruptions and just put that out. But I got a lot of work to do tonight, so that might not happen. All right. The Assassin of the Gray writes, and other network news is Pravda Amerikansky. We still need to call them on it. Movie suggestions, Battleground 1949 starring Van Johnson. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll check that out. I like old movies from like the 30s and 40s. Casey McKay writes, "You're a handsome man with or without your massive mole." Well, thank you, Casey. That's very nice. Let's see here. MK writes, "Are you really going to start posting content on Twitter?" Yeah, I'm going to start posting all of my videos on Twitter. I don't really want to promote that here on YouTube because I obviously want everybody to watch my YouTube channel. But I think that Twitter could potentially be a brilliant new platform. So I'm definitely going to be posting on there. I've been posting on Rumble for a couple of years, I think, or at least a year. And I just don't get any traction on that. People are like, "Oh, you need to switch completely over to Rumble." Well, I would love to, but I just don't get the views. I'll probably end up contacting the people over at Rumble and saying, what can you do for me? How can we boost my views? I'd love to primarily focus my energy on Rumble and interacting with the fans there. But right now, I just get so few views. My Budweiser, if you guys haven't seen my Budweiser parody ad, that thing got 800,000 views already. I mean, it's been a month, so it's not, but it's got 800,000 views, and it's got like 2,000 on Rumble or something like that. I mean, it's gotten like nothing. So I don't know why Rumble doesn't work that well, but Rumble just doesn't work that well. Rock Prophet wrote, "I just watched a CBS clip that was all about the protest because Trump was speaking." They didn't talk about what Trump said. They only talked about people protesting it. Jeff Griffin gave me $13.99 Canadian. Thank you so much, Jeff. And he writes, "The best part was Jake Tapper crying right after Caitlyn got eaten alive. Do you agree?" Is that the name of the moderator? Yeah, she was absolutely obliterated. Jake Tapper did. So Jake Tapper was the one, like right after the town hall ended. Jake Tapper was like, "The first lie began 15 seconds into the town hall." I mean, the weird thing is, Trump genuinely believes, or I think he genuinely believes, that the 2020 election, maybe wasn't entirely perfect. CNN maintains, and a lot of other leftist media maintains, that CNN knows that the election was perfect, but he's lying to you, right? That's what they call it, the big lie. But what's bizarre about that is they have no way of really knowing what Trump thinks, right? Okay, let's say that the election was perfect. Let's say it was absolutely perfect, which I, of course, believe because I'm on YouTube and I'm not allowed to believe anything else. So let's say the election in 2020 was perfect, and Trump's wrong, right? Let's say that Trump genuinely believes the 2020 election had problems, but he's wrong, right? That's still not a lie. That's just a mistake, right? But they don't even want to question whether or not what Trump believes. They just want to maintain it was a lie, it was a lie, it was a lie. Yeah, Jeff, I mean, I've been talking about how you obliterated the moderator basically for the entire video. That's what this whole video is about, essentially. Mrs. Portland #1 fan writes, "Vote blue!" Exclamation mark. Why do I always mess that up? Exclamation point. Why do I say that? Why do I say exclamation mark? I'm like a third grader. That's weird. Now I look bad in front of Miss Portland #1 fan. Oh, that's embarrassing. Listen, Miss Portland #1 fan, I respect Democrat voters. Most Republicans, they don't really respect you guys. I do, because I'll tell you what, most Democrat voters that I knew growing up, right, I'm from Oregon, they wanted to save the environment, genuinely. They wanted to help out ethnic minorities, genuinely. They wanted to improve the country, improve the lives of poorer Americans, genuinely. And I respect that. I think a lot of Democrats really want to do the right thing and make America a better place. The problem that we have in America is that Democrats do not believe this about Republicans. Anytime a Republican says, "I want the same things as you want," they go, "No, you don't. You're a racist. No, you don't. You're a bigot." And listen, I'm so glad that you are watching this, somebody who would vote blue, because traditionally I've not been able to get anybody that's on the left to watch me. So I would say, listen, you may disagree with a lot of the stuff that I believe. You may think that I'm a little bit crazy, especially with one of the videos I'm going to post soon here, in which I maintain that the world is run by sex cults. It's my own conspiracy. I kind of developed it myself. But I think it's real. I think it's real. So I'm going to post that. It sounds crazy, but it's what I think is true. So I'm going to post that soon. You may disagree with me. You may think I'm crazy, but listen, my heart's in the same place yours is. I do want to help out every vulnerable group in America. We disagree with what groups are vulnerable. We disagree with what groups are oppressed. We disagree with what's going on. But we do want to make the world a better place, both of us. So I respect you, and I would hope that you would respect the view of conservatives and not just assume that we're all bigots. Catherine Scully threw $2 my way and just said, "Hey, you." Well, hey, Catherine Scully. I hope I'm pronouncing Scully right. You seem like a cool person. Thank you for sending that along. All right, we got a couple more people that are writing stuff. Sir Galahad. Sir Galahad Lives wrote something that I cannot repeat on this channel, but I agree with you, Sir Galahad. Somebody wrote, Miss Portland, you're on the wrong page. No, she isn't. Miss Portland is on the right page. I don't care if she's a troll. I want her here. I want as many leftists watching this as possible. Mrs. Portland, #1 fan, writes Biden-Harris 2024. Look, I don't really. I would like to say that I respect your opinion and your desire to. But come on, Biden-Harris. I mean, I could kind of more get behind. You think you wanting maybe Gavin Newsom, who's destroyed California. To me, that's a better move because at least he can function. Get behind a candidate who could actually maybe cognitively function. I don't know. Neither Biden nor Harris. Geez, Kamala Harris. Like every speech is like today, but yesterday, but tomorrow, but today. This day is the day. We all got to celebrate daytime. It's crazy the stuff that woman says. All right. Okay, let's have a look at some of these others. Free Cat writes, social justice gives you the ability to mind read. Oh, is that right? Is that how that works? Social justice does it. Here's the problem with social justice. Social justice is the antithesis of justice. Right? The opposite of social justice is justice. Right? They just renamed injustice social justice. Let's see here. Yolanda Tenney wrote, it was hilarious when she called him on something, and he said, as president, about using the economic default. And he said, I'm not the president now. Yeah, that was actually pretty funny. He said, you shouldn't negotiate on the national debt or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. And he's like, no, well, that was when I wasn't president. No, you shouldn't do that. And she goes, well, what's the difference now? And he's like, I'm not president. Because Trump understands that he can fix things in a way that Joe Biden and his, that administration can't. I shouldn't call it the Biden administration. What should we call it, guys? The Obama administration. Let's be honest. This is Obama 2.0. That's what this is. Obama runs the show out there. We all know it. T. says, Jake Tapper in tears. Yeah, basically. Mrs. Portland, #1 fan, says, I agree. Okay, I think she was talking about the Gavin Newsom thing. I'm not 100% sure. I think she's talking about the Gavin Newsom thing. Look, I respect what Democrats want. You want to make the country a better place. You just have a different perspective about who needs help, right? Like if you look at the numbers of black men killed by police officers, especially unarmed black men, right? It's really not any different than the number of white men. And you'll say, well, but there's so much fewer black men in the country. Yeah, but they commit so much more crime, right? If you look at the number of encounters that police have with black suspects versus the number of police encounters that police have with white suspects, you'll find that actually the number of people that are shot and killed actually makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's proportional to the number of encounters. And it's not always white cops killing black suspects, by the way. It's black cops killing black suspects. It's cops killing white suspects. There's it's a smorgasbord of killing. It's a terrible thing to say. But look, you and I just disagree on whether or not cops are racist. I don't see that in the data. That doesn't ring true to me. I've known a lot of cops. There's black cops, white cops in the same office usually in just about every precinct in the country. So this idea that, it's cops are bigoted against criminals. That's who cops are bigoted against, right? And as well they should be, right? They have a bias against criminals because criminals can shoot them, right? So they're very wary in front of criminals, and sometimes they act out poorly. And look, I'm not 100% behind cops like most Republicans. I can tell you, and one of my best friends growing up as a kid became a cop when he got older. I have 2 uncles that are cops, and I can tell you, some cops are a-holes. They just are, all right? And they shouldn't be cops, right? These guys that come out of high school, they're high school bullies. They want to bully people these guys shouldn't be cops, right? We need to go in and reform the police, but not in the way people are saying. It's not about racism. It's about a-hole cops. It's about bad cops versus good cops. The good cops are the ones that we salute, the ones we respect, and the ones we love, right? They can't always be there to protect us, right? Which is why, conservatives are typically pro-2A, pro-Second Amendment. But we respect that they do what they can, and they help us out when they can if they're good cops. If they're bad cops, get rid of them, whatever the case. If they're racist, I don't think racism is really the problem, and that's where we disagree. But we both want the country to be better. So I love how I'm talking to a leftist here. I don't usually get to do that on my show. So thank you for coming in, Mrs. Portland. Yeah, I'm from Oregon. I love Portland. I think Portland was a great city. I think it's been destroyed. I knew a guy in Oregon. A lot of people don't believe this story. I've had leftists criticize me for this. He was a good friend of mine. I had a good friend. He was a very funny guy, which is why we were friends. But he was a strong atheist, hated Christianity, and hated sort of like mainstream culture, very counterculture guy. He had like tattoo sleeves before tattoo sleeves were a thing. Like he was like hardcore, right? And one day I asked him why he voted Democrat, because he was a really smart guy and he understood that Democrats were corrupt. And he said, Democrat politicians, And he goes, well, I felt like I was dealt a bad hand when I was born. Like my life's been kind of crappy. And I feel like everybody's life should be crappy. I want to bring everybody down to my level. So I want to ruin the country. Really. That's really was his position. I was blown away. That was the first time I ever heard anybody admit that they wanted to see the country burn, and that's why they voted Democrat. And I've actually interviewed an Antifa member who said the same thing. They said sometimes you have to burn society down in order to regrow something else in its place, which is exactly the communist idea. That's what they want to do. So that's what Antifa believes. That's what this guy that we were no longer friends, but but he was a funny guy. So he was a guy that I went to school with. But yeah, that's Portland's an interesting place. I want to see the country be better. You may disagree with me about what needs to be fixed in the country, but we're not bigots. We're not trying to ruin anything. We're not trying to hurt anybody. We don't want trans people to hurt themselves, obviously. We just want to protect kids, typically. That's the trans issue. All right, let's have a look here at a few other points. Oh, gosh, I don't even want to talk about that. Wasn't me 777 writes, your thoughts on Title 42 expiring. Guys, do we want to talk about this? It's just so depressing, right? I don't even want to think about it because, yeah, I don't want to think about it. You guys know what's going to happen. It's a disaster. It's an unmitigated disaster. My hope is that they'll figure something out at the last minute. Let's figure out something at the very last minute that can stop the flow of immigrants. But they're already piling up at the borders. So like, what are you going to do? Like, send them all away? Biden's not going to do that. No, this is an unmitigated disaster. Miss J writes, Caitlyn has manly features. She looks just like Dylan Mulvaney. No, I don't agree with that. She's very beautiful girl. Yeah, she's a very beautiful girl. I mean, I think they put her there to throw Trump off, to get him off of his feet, to get him a little bit unstable. So he's like, oh, pretty girl. I can't think properly. But, come on. Trump's an old man. He's dated enough beautiful women not to, for that. Not like he's got tons of beautiful women around him all the time working at his offices as lawyers and stuff like that. He's not going to be thrown by that. That was a stupid thing for CNN to do. They should have brought in somebody who was a lot savvier. Emiliano Morgia. I don't know how to pronounce your name, brother. Emiliano, smart move, all caps. My eye. He writes, do you think Twitter client is mature enough to watch videos? I don't quite understand the question. I think that the Twitter video feature will be slow to gain popularity, but as it sort of improves and becomes more a more palatable way to watch video, I think it'll gain a following. We'll see. We'll see if I get a lot of people watching those videos or not. I'm working with a group now that is like a production team that's helping with my videos now. And I said, can we start posting my long-form videos on Twitter? And my guy was like, long-form videos do not do well on Twitter. And I said, yeah, but Tucker's getting on there now, so let's give it a shot. So we're going to start posting all my videos on Twitter. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to be an early pioneer. It's a little bit of a gamble. It's not going to hurt anything, right? So we'll see how it goes. Russell Dufresne says, hey, Mr. Reagan and chat. I don't know what that means. A lot of people just saying hi and stuff like that. David Smith says, Mrs. Trump is hot, hot, hot. Oh, that's right. I mean, here's the thing. When you date a beautiful woman, beautiful women are much less impactful to you. They have less impact in your life. When you're a single guy, or you're, you sort of like look at these beautiful women as kind of like with this elevated status that like I could probably never date a girl like that. When you're in the presence of a girl that's that beautiful, a lot of guys are kind of starstruck. It's difficult for them to talk. When you actually have a beautiful girlfriend or a beautiful wife, or you're around beautiful women a lot, it's a much less powerful impact, I think. I mean, living in LA. Random guy says, Chris, do you drink Bud Light? So I was trying to do this sketch. I'll play it out for you guys here. I was trying to do this sketch. It didn't turn out very well, so I didn't post it. But I bought Bud Light after the controversy, and I bought Coors. And I was going to do this sketch where I said, all right, guys, I've been hired as the spokesperson for not Bud Light. All the companies in the world that are not Bud Light have hired me as their spokesperson to differentiate them from Bud Light with Dylan Mulvaney. So I thought, you know what? Let's get a beer that's not Bud Light. This is a Coors. And let's get a Bud Light, and we'll do a taste test, and we'll see what the difference is. So I drank the Coors, and I went, cool, refreshing, delightful. Put the Coors. Now, I don't drink beer, so, okay, don't judge me on my preference for beer. I don't like any beer. So I put the Coors aside, and I pulled out a Bud Light, and I drank the Bud Light, and I go, I don't understand why this is so bad, why people don't like it. It tastes wonderful. This is great, guys. And then I was going to have this, like, voice in the back be like, somebody get an ambulance. What the hell's wrong with his voice? You know, and I'm just like, there's nothing wrong with my voice. Why are you talking? Why are you guys freaking out? I don't understand, right? Bud Light's great, guy. Everybody should drink this. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything to me at all. It's like, somebody get a stomach pump, that kind of thing. So I thought that would be kind of funny. So I did that sketch. It didn't really play out very well. I didn't think it worked well, but I actually did have to drink Bud Light. I don't know. I don't like beer, so I'm not a really good judge of that stuff. Yolanda Tenney writes, President Trump was brilliant tonight. He brought up Joe Biden's classified documents in Chinatown. Yeah, I don't know what that means, in Chinatown. And tied the payments we learned from Comer today. It's quite possible. And tied the payments we learned about from Comer today. Yeah, to me that was big news. This morning, the fact that they were able to actually get some bank records of Joe Biden's. And now we've got Romania in the mix. Romania is a very corrupt country as well. Fantastic. I love how they're sort of like the noose is sort of like forming around the neck of Joe Biden. The reality is we all knew. I mean, I made videos for years. I made videos long before the 2020 election about Joe Biden's corruption, right? We all knew about Joe Biden's corruption. Peter Schweitzer wrote about it in books ages ago. It's been written about in the New York Times. It's not a conspiracy theory, right? This is stuff written about in mainstream left-wing media. Joe Biden's corruption in Ukraine, Joe Biden's corruption in China. We've had this. We've known about all this for a long time. It's just the FBI refused to investigate. Nobody wants to investigate. I don't know why it wasn't properly investigated during Trump's time. I mean, that just goes to show how deep the deep state goes and how corrupt Washington is, that they weren't able to get him. Then when Trump dares question Zelensky about it and says, could you find any kind of evidence about about Biden's corruption in Ukraine? And Zelensky himself is like, yeah, it's fine. That was a fine request. If I can find anything, I'll let you guys know. And he gets impeached over that. And he's saying that Trump is somehow extorting Ukraine, or there's a quid pro quo there. Well, we know there was a quid pro quo there. I don't want to rehash this. You guys know about it. Let's see here. I got so many little comments and stuff. Let's see here. Another Yolanda Tenney. She writes, What about when she wouldn't let the 52 miles of new border wall go? Yeah, that was weird. I hadn't really heard about this controversy before, but there's this controversy apparently where Trump had built a lot more wall than the Democrats are giving him credit for, but because there was already like a border fence in some of those places, they would say, okay, well, you didn't build new border wall because there was already a fence there. Well, if there's a crappy little fence and Trump builds a border wall there that you could just hop over, and then there's a border wall that you can't get through, you could probably count that as new wall, right? But they're only counting places in which there was no border fence, there was nothing. They're counting that as new border wall, and Trump's like, nah, you can't just count that. You got to count the crappy fence that was all busted up and everybody was just climbing over. You got to count that as new border wall as well. I built hundreds of miles of border wall. You're giving me credit for 52 miles. Yeah, the weird thing was she was such a nagging little, oh my God, this woman, she was infuriating. There's nothing that makes a man more angry than frustration. Not being able to talk or somebody just nagging. Like, could you imagine being that woman's husband? All right, I would just file for divorce, like, on day 2. I couldn't stand, like, I don't know why I'd marry her in the first place, but, like, you just wouldn't. I mean, I don't know if that chick's married or not, but, I feel bad for whoever does. I mean, that's just going to be hell, right? I mean, why would you hire somebody like that? It's just so obnoxious. She's probably not that obnoxious normally, to be fair. It was just a thing she probably felt that she had to do in this town hall naturally because she's a leftist. She works at CNN, blah, 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 blah. All right. Not Chili Boo Boo. Okay, Chili Boo Boo derailed this whole video to talk about my former mole under my eye. So let's see what Chili Boo Boo has to say here. I'm curious. I worry that the Brandon administration... Okay, politics, thank God. I worry that the Brandon administration is going to fast-track this war with Russia-China in order to suspend the election to avoid impeachment. Am I just paranoid? Maybe I've been watching too much Alex Jones. That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. I don't watch Alex Jones, so I couldn't tell you my perspective on that. I haven't thought that through. But that's an interesting idea that the U.S. would want to go into a hot war in order to suspend an election, maybe, declare a national emergency, or what do you call it, like martial law or something like that. Yeah, that is a possibility. I mean, it would be completely unconstitutional as far as I'm aware, but I'm not a constitutional scholar, nor am I a lawyer, so I don't know actually the specific laws about that. That would be nice. That would be interesting to know about that. But no, I don't know. That seems a little bit far-fetched. We always think that the left is going to do something completely crazy because there doesn't seem to be any depths to which they will not sink in order to control America, to seize power, and to basically just make money and steal money. They're just completely corrupt, But I think a hot war might be too risky to them. A hot war would benefit them in one way, which is that I was talking about the homeless problem today, and like, why is it that because I was just walking through downtown, I'm like, why is it that the government of California, the government of Los Angeles, they do not seem to care about the homeless problem in LA? You'd think that they clean that up, everybody would go, oh, Democrats are great because they can clean up the homeless problem. But they leave it, and I'm thinking maybe Democrats like problems. Maybe Democrats like there to be problems because then they can pump money into programs to solve those problems. And the more problems they have, the more programs that they create, the more opportunity they have to rip off the American taxpayer and like fill their own wallet, fill their own bank account. So that's why I'm thinking maybe they don't address the homeless problem here in Los Angeles. And we obviously know that, the military-industrial complex is a great way for a lot of people to get very, very rich. And we've known that for a very long time. And so a Cold War is probably better, or a proxy war is probably better. But a hot war could be in the best interest of Democrats. I wouldn't put it past them, but it's probably a little bit too risky, probably a little bit too dangerous. You don't want to completely F yourself and just lose everything, You don't want to endanger your family. You don't want, even Democrats... I would say they're pretty risk averse. They will commit crimes. They will be as corrupt as imaginable if they believe that they are completely insulated from being caught. But a hot war, that becomes a little bit more dangerous. Sirius Fox writes, concept, gender theory. The modification of the body is the precursor to transhumanism. I'm not as worried about transhumanism as a lot of people. I don't really understand what people are worried about that for. I guess there's some kind of a concern that if we somehow mesh biology and computers, that will be controllable. I mean, obviously that's a problem. But look at America now. 50% of the population is clearly controlled by Democrat brainwashing. So I don't know if it's going to make it any worse. Yeah, I'm not as worried about the transhumanist movement, which I assume you mean like the integration of computers and the human brain and all that kind of thing. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I mean, that's not something I'm that really worried about. The modification of the body, the transgender movement is a bizarre one. You know what I mean? Like, I always make the joke that, because I do really think of it as a trend. I do think a lot of young people are like, oh, I can get attention by being gay, right? This was like in the 90s and early 2000s. And that's now boring. So then like, oh, I can get attention from being trans. I'll tell everybody I'm trans, and that'll be like a big deal, and I'll get a lot of attention. So a lot of attention-seeking people like Dylan Mulvaney seems to be the kind of person that likes attention. So a lot of attention-seeking people seem to want to do this, and we want to explore the psychology of why transgenderism is so popular right now. But I often make the joke that in 20 years, you know, like if we look at somebody from the 70s, like our parents, and we look at their haircuts, we go, oh man, Mom, Dad, your haircut was wild. Like that's crazy. And they go, yeah, it was a trend. Like things were crazy back then. 20 years from now, people are going to look back and they're going to be like, oh man, you remember in the 2023 era when we all cut our penises off? That was such a crazy trend, you guys. Like it's a little bit different than getting a haircut, you know. It's not gonna probably end up quite with the same laughing, jovial memory. Random guy sent me $2. Thank you very much, random guy. Randomly. Jesus is God says, end the Fed. I've been trying to... Emiliano Morgia says, why I can't subscribe to your Twitter account. I don't know. You should be able to subscribe to my Twitter account. Oh, like as like a member or something like that. I signed up for like the subscription thing, and it just hasn't processed yet. So I don't have that subscribe option just yet. I'm going to have a bunch of membership things. I'm kind of restructuring my Mr. Reagan show because I've been a little bit lax in posting, as you guys have noticed. And I want to post more. I was actually going to do a video on Jesus is God wrote, End the Fed. I was going to do a video on should we end the Fed? Should not the Fed, not the Federal Reserve, but should we? Oh, the Federal Reserve, I guess, is what she's talking about. I don't know. I haven't delved into that. I haven't delved into the question: should we end the FBI? That's the question I was going to do a video on. And I've talked to a former FBI agent who I trust, who I think is a good guy, and his position is, yeah, look, you can just go to. There's a certain floor at the FBI building with all the administration. You just go like, take me there with Trump, and I'll just point to all the people that need to be fired. You just get rid of them. That's one option. Another option is we just set up a completely new organization. We just don't call it the FBI. We call it something else. And we rehire all the good FBI guys, because there are good ones in there. And we just don't rehire the bad ones. And that's it. That's as simple as that. And then it doesn't have that burden of the stank of the FBI on it anymore. Mr. E writes, transhumanism will be the end of humanity. I've read a little bit about transhumanism, not too much. I don't really quite understand why people think that. Maybe that's right. I mean, a lot of people think AI will be the end of humanity. I don't know. It's, I've seen Terminator 2. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know. It's one of those things, like, life is crazy. Christopher Levick says, I want to be a motorcycle racer who identifies as a bicycle racer. Oh, dang, you're going to be the fastest bicycle racer on the planet. I guess that's the point, right? You're going to win every single race in history. I want to get a motorcycle. I've been wanting to get a motorcycle for a while now, but I'm not sure if I'm going to stay in LA. So I keep lingering here, and the more I linger here, the more I think, okay, I'll just buy a bike. But no, I think I'm going to leave. It's just moving is such a hassle, So I keep holding off. Hell Radio Olives. Wait, what? Oh, Olives. Hell Radio Lives writes, throws $2 my way and says, Mr. Pagan would be excellent for Twitter. You know, I have a Mr. Pagan account. I created one. I have not created an Alpha Critic. By the way, if you guys have not subscribed to my Alpha Critic channel, please subscribe. I know not all of you care about pop culture news and stuff like that, but I'm going to be making a lot more videos. Also, for my Mr. Pagan channel, I'm going to be doing a weekly segment now called News from the Future 2025. And I'm just going to be reading news stories from the future, like I have a list here. Let's see here. Like a woman was arrested recently for force gendering her child before the age of 4 when the child had the opportunity to gender themselves. When asked why the woman decided to force gender her child, she responded, "She doesn't have a penis." That monster. So anyway, so it's going to be news from 2025, like to see how bad things are going to get, when, if and when Democrats decide they're going to tweak the 2024 election and Joe Biden will once again be president. I don't know. You guys might find that funny. You guys might let me know what you guys think there in the comments. I'll read them here. Okay. Sir Galahad lives. I got it right that time quickly. Chris, please leave California before 2024. Accurate prediction, 10.5 quake and tsunami coming. Serious. Despite the fact that you gave me $7.77, I do not agree with your prediction because I don't believe anyone could predict that. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong, but that sounds ridiculous to me. I will say that I do want to leave before they make me pay $24,000 in reparations for every black Californian or whatever they're trying to do there. Gavin Newsom says he's not going to deal with that, but I mean, that's obviously not the main reason I want to get out of here, but I want to get out of here. Let's see here. We've got another Super Chat. This is beautiful from Super Chicken, but Super Chicken hasn't written anything. They just gave me $5. I don't know if that was an accident or not, but thank you, Super Chicken, for that. Underneath this, for whatever reason, it says, celebrate the first Super Chat from Super Chicken. I don't know if there's a way to do that, graphically, but okay, I will take YouTube's cue. Yay, Super Chicken. Thank you so much. I don't know. Random, let's see. Okay, MK writes, Mr. Reagan, get out of California. Yeah, obviously. I do need to. Here's the problem, guys. I used to do kind of some Hollywood stuff, right? I was like acting and this kind of thing. So I have a few connections, and I really came to LA to write movies and TV shows and stuff, and I'm quite good at that. I am quite good at it. And that's kind of an arrogant thing to say, but I think I'm good at it. And every once in a while, I meet somebody who's like, oh, that's a really good idea. Send me that script. So I send it to them. They're like, this is a really brilliant script. I got to send this to everybody I know. I'm like, fantastic. Like, I think I know somebody who will want to produce it. I'm like, fantastic. And they go, yeah, I don't know. They haven't got to the script. They haven't read it, whatever. So I keep getting these teases from people. They're like, oh, I know somebody who would love to produce this. Okay, great. And then they're like, oh, they won't read it. And I never hear back, or they do finally get back to me. They're like, they're really busy. They couldn't read it. It's like, why doesn't anybody read scripts in LA anymore? Don't you need to read scripts in order to get ideas for new movies and stuff? Like, I don't know. I can't get anybody to read my scripts. I can get a few people, but then it kind of just like ends before it gets up the food chain. Yolanda Tenney writes, what about when President Trump said her dog or her cat was named Vagina? When speaking about E. Jean Carroll and the defamation suit. Yeah, I forgot to bring up the E. Jean Carroll thing. I did a video a while back about the E. Jean Carroll thing. I'm going to repost that or do another one about that. E. Jean Carroll, there was a story in one of these like police procedural shows about somebody who was attacked in the dressing room of, I think it was Bergdorf Goodman. And it turned out to be a phony sexual assault claim. And this was on a TV show years ago. And so it almost seems like maybe she watched that episode of the show and she like imagined, oh, what if that happened to me? And then accused Trump of that. But like she got it from the show. It's like a very close match to her story. It's really weird. I'm going to repost that. That's a crazy sort of thing. Yeah, that woman's nuts. Obviously that story is complete BS. I don't know, man. Faithless writes, you can write from anywhere. Yeah, I can write from anywhere. I can actually shoot from anywhere. I just did a live stream with Sebastian Gorka from the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. I brought my camera, I brought a light, and I brought a microphone, and I just did it from there, and it worked out fine. Okay, so Not Chili Boo Boo writes, real question, why are you still living in California? Are you a masochist or something? Well, I just answered that. Basically, I keep being pulled back in because of hopes of like meeting the right people here in LA and finally getting a script sold, or some, getting some kind of writing thing. Because I like the idea of writing for TV, writing for movies, shifting the culture that way. I will never stop doing my Mr. Reagan show, and here's why. I think that it's important to directly address the problems of society today. It's funny because Gorka is working on some side projects. Sebastian Gorka is working on some side projects that are irrelevant to politics and somewhat, but mainly irrelevant to politics. I said, is this the thing that you're most excited about right now? And he turned to me and he goes, I think primarily it's most important that we save the country, right? And he was totally sincere. And, that hit me actually pretty hard because I felt the same way. Like, I think, like, it doesn't matter if I sell a script or I'm making movies or whatever it is that I'm doing, which is what I've always wanted to do with my life. I can't really give up the Mr. Reagan thing because you always have to address the problems directly as well as in some kind of like subtle, more creative way. And we really do want to save the country, and we do really want to save the world. Like, we can't just let Antifa, and Democrats and the deep state and all these corrupt people, we can't have them destroying the country. It's just ridiculous. All right, we've got somebody else sent me a little bit of money here. All right. Eric writes, I can't speak for all of California, but I went to school for audio engineering in San Francisco. Wife and I would see literal scripts probably tossed out of windows of taxis on the sidewalks. Focus on hooks, maybe. Focus on hooks. Yeah, I'm aware that you need a hook in a script, of course. Yeah, all my scripts have very, very good hooks. I'm not going to get into what I'm trying to sell right now, but yeah, the hooks are there. Of course, you need hooks. You're absolutely right. It's 100%. Fenrir writes, why not pitch to Daily Wire? I mean, it's a good idea. I mean, I think I have some contacts over there, but I don't know if they'd produce my stuff, to be honest. Daily Wire is a little bit weird, you guys. Like, they don't really like other YouTubers. Tim Pool is kind of the same way. Like, some of the bigger YouTubers, they don't like other YouTubers. They won't connect to you. Like, Steven Crowder's never talked to me. Daily Wire's never talked to me. Tim Pool's never talked to me, even though we know a lot of the same people. Well, all of us know some of the same people. I've never talked to any of those guys. They kind of stay in their own little bubble. They got their business going. They got their thing going. I understand, they can't talk to every other conservative out there. But there's a lot of conservatives that will. I've been on the Blaze. I've hung out with some very important people. I go on Newsmax sometimes, and I've hung out with basically, I don't know, 50% of the important conservatives that are in media. I've spoken with most of them in at CPAC or just different things that I've done, and yeah, they're all really cool. I mean, most conservative. There's a few nut jobs. Obviously. Steven Crowder's going through some stuff. I don't really want to comment on that, but it's a bit of a shame, all that stuff. But yeah, occasionally people have problems. Occasionally people are maybe not what they seem to be on screen. But for the most part, I find that a lot of guys are basically, what you see is what you get. Sebastian Gorka is very much like that. I think that he's the guy that I've clicked with the best in terms of other personalities. But people like Carl Benjamin, who's Sargon of Akkad, very genuine guy, very good man, actually. Like, to his fans and stuff, he's very, very generous. Gary from Nerdrotic, I don't know if you guys know the show Nerdrotic. It's more of a pop culture show. It's less about politics. That guy, oh my gosh, I've never seen somebody so generous to his fans. And I can't, there was a point when I decided I'm going to respond to every single message that anyone ever sends me. And I literally spent one Saturday just responding to messages. So that's all I did. And it was so exhausting, and it was such a time sink, and I got so little work done that I realized in that moment I have to stop responding to messages, which is why if you've ever messaged me and I haven't responded, I really probably haven't seen it, because I have to, because I feel I feel an obligation to you guys because I have so much respect for you guys and I have so much appreciation that you watch the show and everything that I feel obliged to respond to every message you write me. And so I have to force myself to not look at private messages on any platform. Like I've restricted myself to basically just doing live streams and reading the comment section of my videos. And that's just because I can't afford the time. But somebody like Gary from Nerdrotic, he's much better at balancing that, and he's very generous with his time, and he's a good guy. He's a good guy. And like I said, Sargon of Akkad, Gorka's an amazing guy. He really believes what he says. I've never met Tucker, but I feel like Tucker's the same. Like the stuff that I hear from him in interviews, it reminds me of myself. And I'm basically an open book. Like the stuff that I say I would never say anything on camera that I don't really believe. The stuff that I say, I genuinely believe, and I'm maybe I'm wrong about some things, but I'm trying to tell you guys the truth. All right, we got a bunch of people writing in here. Okay, Eric comes back and I can't speak for all of. Okay, oh no, sorry, I already read that one. MK sends me $20 and writes, for your relocation fund. I lost a bunch of money recently. I'm not going to explain why, but I lost a bunch of money recently. So that's actually very genuinely helpful because really the reason I haven't left already probably is financial. I mean, I lost like all my money. I never complain about it. I never talk about it on the show or anything because it's like a personal thing. In my world, it has nothing to do with the show. It has nothing to do with you guys. But yeah, I don't have any money, so I can't leave LA. So that's thank you, MK. That's very cool. Not Chili Boo Boo writes, relocation fund. Yeah, everybody sent me money to move. Oh, you guys are amazing. I love it. Eric writes, no, I mean to say that their attention span as a response to the audience isn't going to be the same as ours. Not trying to knock you. I was just saying maybe consider who they believe is their audience. I'll tell you what. There are a few things in this script that I wrote, and I reread it, and they're hilarious jokes. But I'm like, these jokes might be a little too conservative. Like they may be, because I'm trying to make a neutral script that isn't woke, but it's not like preaching conservative or something like that. But some of the jokes are like, there's this moment in the script where this guy's this guy and his, I guess, father-in-law, let's call him, his father-in-law and him are shooting. The father-in-law doesn't like him that much, and they're shooting bad guys that are coming at him to try to kill him. And they're shooting these guys with these massive machine guns. Well, they're about to. They're kind of they're positioning themselves to defend themselves. And he says, and the old man goes, like smoking a cigar, and he's like, they all look pretty young, inexperienced. They should be pretty easy to take out. And this the younger guy, sort of wanting to like bond with the father-in-law, says, and hey, if we miss a couple of them, all we got to do is refer to them by the wrong pronoun, and their heads will probably explode or something like. I don't remember what the joke was exactly, but he kind of looks at the kid and he's like, all right, and he gives him a cigar, and the two bond in that moment, And there's a couple little jokes like that. There's several jokes like that throughout the script, and so I'm reading through the script. I'm thinking, I don't know, but I did send it to get coverage. I don't know if you guys like coverage in the script world. Is if you send a script, there are certain companies that'll do coverage. What that means is they'll read your script and they'll give you suggestions of how to fix it, whatever. And these coverage companies, they'll rate your script and they'll give you a rating, which is either pass, which means don't make this movie, or consider, which means maybe read the script and see if you like it, or recommend. And recommend means, yeah, you should definitely make this movie. This is a good script. And it's pretty hard to get a recommend, I would say. And so I submitted it to one of these companies for coverage, and I got a recommend. So, the script is objectively good, people. The script I'm trying to sell right now. Let's see here. Sir Galahad lives, $10, relocation fund, Ruby Red State, South Dakota, Black Hills. Oh, South Dakota. I was just talking about South Dakota in a joke. I made a joke about South Dakota. It was just randomly, just picked it as a random state. But yeah, I've heard that it's a very beautiful state. Like I said, I'm from Oregon, so I like mountains and trees and stuff like that. Not Chili Boo Boo writes, get this man some gas money. Thank you, Not Chili Boo Boo. Christopher gives you $20. He writes, leave LA and you will have money. Well, all the places I'd like to move to, actually, I probably would be just as broke. I really like, you guys will be mad at me for saying this, but I kind of want to live in Europe for a little bit. I lived in London for a year, but I've never lived on mainland Europe, like Germany, a place like that. And my family's German. So I've always just kind of like felt like I want to live there for maybe a year or something like that. So I might do that. I also really like Hawaii. I have like a medical condition I've had since I was a kid. It's not really bad, so there's nothing like serious. But, there's a little bit of soreness and pain sometimes, and a warmer climate really helps. And I love swimming in the ocean in Hawaii. Honestly, like, I didn't think I would like Hawaii when I was a kid, but then my buddy, I met a guy, one of my best friends in the world, great guy, his name's Kurt. He lives in Hawaii. And so at one point, I was like, well, I'll just go visit Kurt. I'll just go on a trip. I'll visit Kurt. I was trying to figure out where to go on a vacation. Decided to go visit Kurt. I was thinking, I'll experience Hawaii. I was never into it. I never thought it would be cool. The luau's, the hula dancers, not really my thing. But it's not about hula dancers. It's not about luau's, guys. It's about the jungle. It's about the ocean. It's about, I mean, my favorite ever hike in the whole world. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting a message from my former FBI buddy. But he's running a campaign for political office, so he's asking me a question. He's not watching this show, obviously, because he's not responding to it. But guys, there's this thing called I think it's called Three Peaks, best hike in the whole world. I've never been on a better hike. I've been on hikes all over the place. My brother's been on hikes all over the place. I took him on this hike. He's like, I think this is the best hike in the world. There's a little bit where you actually have to rock climb. It's not that much. It's maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 feet, something like that, 10 meters. Where you actually have to rock climb a little bit, but there's ropes. If you can't climb, there's ropes. And it's not a difficult climb. It's not like actually difficult. Like, you don't have to be a professional rock climber, but it's like kids do it. I've seen kids do it. A lot of it is scrambling up kind of steep bits. I have a buddy who won't do it. He got too scared. He wouldn't do it. But yeah, you get people, old ladies, you get people from all over the world. They can climb up. So it's not that difficult, but it's beautiful. It's dynamic. It's the most amazing hike you've been. Sorry, I'm going on about stupid Hawaii stuff. All right, let's have a look here. Not Chili Boo Boo writes, don't move to Hawaii. I love Hawaii. I'm sorry. Look, I'd like to visit some other tropical places. I'd like to visit, Bali. I'd like to visit maybe Thailand, Singapore, Philippines, some places like that maybe. I'd like to visit, maybe like Jamaica, somewhere in the Bahamas. I'd like to visit some of these places. I have a buddy from Mauritius when I was living in London. Mauritius sounds very cool. I'd like to visit there. So there's a lot of different places I would like to visit. So, I'm not going to, I would say I wouldn't want to exclusively just visit Hawaii as a tropical destination. But I do love it. I do absolutely love it. We got very lucky with getting Hawaii. America did. Not Chili Boo Boo writes, OMG, is he in L.A.? Are you writing to me or somebody else? Yeah, I live in L.A. It's not great. It's not ideal. All right. MK writes Chile. That's interesting. I never really thought about Chile. Tierra del Fuego always seemed like a cool place. Come to New Mexico and you'll miss the conservative leanings of California. New Mexico. Well, you wrote NM. I'm assuming that's New Mexico, right? Am I missing something, guys? I thought New Mexico was like the cartel capital of America. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Thanks for the $20, by the way. This is from KX250FMX. Apparently, this is one of Elon Musk's children. They wrote the entire show Breaking Bad around New Mexico, and Better Call Saul, the sequel to, or I guess the prequel to Breaking Bad. And I don't know. It just seems like a crime-ridden hellhole. Is it good? Is New Mexico good? I can't imagine, but I guess. There's a lot of my friends have moved to Arizona. I know a lot of people in Arizona. And I never thought I'd like Arizona. It's just I don't like the desert. I guess because I grew up in Oregon, I like places with foliage. So whether it's the beach or the mountain, I like trees. I like trees and stuff. Oh, Emiliano Morgia writes, come to Dubai. Weirdly, I've actually dated two women who have been to or even like lived in Dubai, and they absolutely loved it. I dated a lot of Russian women in my life, so they're both Russian, and they just absolutely loved Dubai. They absolutely loved it. It's like it's a big thing for Russians. Russians love Dubai. Russian women love Dubai. They go there. They work as like a waitress, or they work in a hotel or something like that. And beautiful women will go and just like live there. And they say it's like very clean. Everything's perfectly clean. It's actually one reason why I wanted to move to Europe. I like the idea of somewhere like, Zurich or Hamburg or Copenhagen or Stockholm. I like cities. I like the energy of a city. A lot of conservatives are like, well, I like the country. I like, my folks are like that. They live in the country. I like the city. I like the energy of the city. I like the hustle and bustle. I like the idea that people are doing stuff, getting stuff done. I'm kind of that way in my own head. But I like a city that's clean. I can't live in LA anymore, you guys. LA is just disgusting. Not Chili Boo Boo comes back with another $10 and writes, our relocation funds can only go so far, bro. We're not sending you to Costa Rica. Yeah, that's fair enough. Alan Tripp writes, Oregon, great grow-up place before 1990. Yeah, I mean, I was born in 1979, so I left Oregon in about 1998, I think I went to college. Yeah, and it was beautiful, man. I mean, there was not like, yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. I couldn't. If you watch the movie The Goonies, I literally just reviewed Goonies. If you want to go see that review, it's on Rumble. Just write "Make Movies Great Again." Sebastian Gorka and I do this movie review radio show, and we record it. We put it on Rumble, and we just did Goonies. And if you want to know what my childhood was like, just watch The Goonies. I mean, oh, and by the way, Robert Davi, the guy who sings in Goonies, the guy who's like the villain who sings and scares the kids and everything. He's a strong Republican. He's on Twitter. He's a real badass. And he came on, and we asked him some questions. We interviewed him a little bit for the show, and it was probably my favorite episode ever. Love Robert Davi. Love Sebastian Gorka. Love The Goonies. But that was my childhood, riding bikes around the forest and looking for pirate treasure. I wasn't so lucky to find real pirate treasure, but that was my childhood. MK writes, Arizona is gorgeous. Jesus as God writes, it wouldn't be a live stream if Chris didn't mention an old girlfriend or old girlfriends. I mean, I've had lots of, I don't know. I've had girlfriends, and that's, I don't know. Yeah. I probably shouldn't. You're right. Old Schooled writes, do you think states like Oregon or Washington can be turned around and fixed? God, I hope so. I don't know, man. I don't know. They're getting so bad. They're getting crazy. Faithless writes, Goonies has been a favorite since it was released. Yeah, it's a classic. It is a modern classic. I don't know what that means. Okay. Oh, Nancy Harris writes, favorite movie, The Matrix, There Is No Spoon. I'm going to do a video on this for my Alpha Critic channel. If you guys haven't subscribed to Alpha Critic, please do. I'm going to start posting about twice a week on that channel. I'm going to be posting about 3 times a week on this channel. And I'm going to be doing live streams every Thursday on Mr. Reagan. I will do a video on Mr. Reagan on Matrix, but I'm going to give you my quick summary of what that video is going to be. The Matrix, written by 2 now trans women, right? Who also, if you go ahead and watch that other movie with the guy in the mask, I forget what that movie's called. Anyway, it's a very anti-Christian movie. Very anti-Christian, very anti-conservative movie. It's a Guy Fawkes mask, right? Yeah, V for Vendetta, right? If you go watch that movie, you kind of get their true political and religious philosophy in that movie. They are viciously hateful of Christianity. And if you watch The Matrix, having seen what V for Vendetta is, you'll understand what The Matrix is. And The Matrix is a sort of recognition of the Christian view of the universe, which is that our world here is almost like a testing ground. It's like a temporary place where we're tested, and you see if we go to heaven or hell, right? But in The Matrix, they replace heaven with the computer world, the computers, and they replace hell with the real world. So when Neo takes the red pill, he's not actually waking up in the real world. He's just dying and going to hell. He wakes up in hell. You'll notice there's a moment. I figured this out because the first time I watched the movie, there's a moment when the Oracle who I really don't understand the Oracle if I'm honest, says, basically lies to Neo. And Neo says to Morpheus, why did she lie? And Morpheus goes, sometimes lying is good. Like, you need to lie to people sometimes. I'm like, well, that's not a Christian thing, but there's obviously all these Christian references. So the way they keep referencing Christianity, but then they're giving us like non-Christian advice. So like, there's something weird about this movie. And then there's a moment where Agent Smith sort of unplugs his like ear thing, and he says, let me be honest with you. I hate humans. Humans are disgusting. When we first created this world, we made it perfect, but you guys kept waking up. You couldn't handle the perfection, so we had to create this, the 20th century, and now you guys live here. And it occurred to me, okay, that's like Eden, and Adam and Eve not being able to live in Eden. So the agents are like angels. Morpheus is like a demon, and Neo is the Antichrist. And I know conservatives like that movie, and they like to interpret it in a sort of like Christian lens, like Neo's Christ or whatever, but he's not. He's the Antichrist. And that movie is a promotion of evil, like demonic forces winning against God. And it kind of gets messy in the second and third movie because they had to sort of like make it work. But the first movie, that's very clearly what it is. That's all it is. I think they eventually turned Agent Smith into Jesus, but originally I think he was just supposed to be an angel, and Agent Smith and Neo was like the Antichrist. Anyway, watch the movie with that lens, the sort of inversion of what you expect, and the movie makes a hell of a lot more sense. A hell of a lot more sense. All right, Ryan Trujillo, I think his name's Trujillo. $10. He says, Fetterman, hey, you guys. Yeah, a lot of people make that joke, and it's always funny because Fetterman really does seem like his name's Sloth in the movie. His name's Sloth. Let's see here. Sir Galahad Lives writes, the quantum field is the mind of God. I don't quite understand what you mean by that. I don't know if you're talking about the Matrix. There is this moment in, I think it's the third Matrix movie, where he goes to sort of meet up with the computer or whatever, and there's this big sort of glowing face in the sky. He's like blind. And the glowing face in the sky is clearly the Holy Spirit, right? And then in the second movie, I think it's the second movie, maybe it's the third movie, he meets the architect. That's obviously God the Father. And I think they turned Agent Smith into Jesus, even though he's not. I think originally I don't think that was right. Sort of like in Star Wars, how Luke and Leia weren't really supposed to be brother and sister in the first movie, and they eventually retroactively made them brother and sister, which made the first movie a little weird. Assassin of the Gray writes, that is a moral relativism. I don't know to what he's referring, but all right. Robert Sutero writes, the Matrix is 100% Gnosticism. I've never really understood Gnosticism. I've never really understood that. I mean, I've read a lot about Gnosticism, and I've never really, because it seems to be very vague and broad ideas about religion that are so non-specific that I've never really understood. It just seems like a sort of almost like agnosticism to some degree. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just ignorant of Gnosticism. Brian P. writes, thank you for being one of the few down-to-earth people around to look up to as a guiding stone. I try my best to look at both sides, and you always do both in a well-spoken manner. Well, thank you, Brian. I mean, this is how I view if anybody else out there wants to do a show or wants to just be somebody that can talk intelligently about politics, this is the way that I try to do my show, and the way that I try to, and I've talked to Gorkin, he kind of agrees with me. I think he agrees with me. He does the same thing. We try to clearly and concisely express ideas that are sometimes difficult to comprehend and to express, right? So in politics, there's a lot of ideas that are very difficult to express. Like, why do I think this is wrong? Why do I think this is bad? Why do I think this is good? Why do I think this is the right answer or the wrong answer? Sometimes difficult to express those ideas, to concentrate them into a simple, digestible idea or rhetorical expression. Sometimes it's very difficult to do that. So that's what I think my job is, to try to condense these difficult ideas into a very easily digestible, concise expression. This is what I think. This is why. And as long as we can do that, those of us who do this kind of thing, as long as we can do that well, then it gives you guys ammunition to just go talk to your family about it and try to convince people. But I'll also say this. Try not to let discussions get heated. I make this mistake a lot where I turn anytime I'm talking to a leftist, I turn it into a moment where I'm going to own them, like Ben Shapiro at a college campus. You're not going to help anybody that way. I mean, maybe if you have an audience and people are watching you, then it's a good idea. Yeah, you sacrifice this person turning against you forever and being humiliated, but you're getting this 100 other people to agree with you and maybe hopefully become more conservative. But if it's just a one-on-one conversation, try to be more generous and try to be understanding and polite and, not rude, and try not to frustrate them, and try to agree with them whenever you can, and acknowledge that 90% of what you believe is probably the same. Because I think that's true of Democrats and Republican voters. I mean, we all want to make the world a better place, most of us. So try to be nice, because when you own them and destroy them and humiliate them, they're never coming back, right? They're going to be hard against you. And it's so easy to do. The stuff Democrats believe is nuts, you guys. I mean, I don't have to tell you guys. Let's see. The assassin of the gray writes, Morpheus saying lying is good is moral relativism. Yeah, exactly. And it's purely the opposite of Christianity, And so I was like, that was the first moment. I mean, there was a lot in the movie because they kept saying things like, "You're my personal Jesus Christ, man." There's like a line like that. There's a bunch of references to Christ and God and things. And I'm like, okay, this has obviously got religious overtones, but what are they trying to say? And that moment, I thought, okay, this is an anti-Christian movie. And then I started trying to work out why. And it's Ronna Church says, hello, Mr. Reagan. Long time since I've seen your channel. Ronna Church, I remember seeing you in my chat section before, or at least in the comment section of my videos. So nice to see you back. I'll probably be logging off here pretty soon. But Sir Galahad Lives writes, religion in Latin, I think you're trying to say the word means to bind or shackle. I'm okay with that. I feel like marriage is a prison, right? But marriage is a prison that you want to be in, right? Like, okay, I want to be attached to this person for the rest of my life, so I'm deciding to go in there. I don't mind binding myself to a religion if that religion is accurate or real. Now, I grew up in a sort of like a loose version of Christianity. I was like non-denominational Protestant, So we didn't have the same sort of strict traditional stuff as the Catholics do, which I think Catholicism sometimes pushes people away from Christianity, which is a problem because they're too strict and they're too sometimes very, very vicious with children especially, which I think is a bit of a problem. But my family was Catholic actually before I was born, so I have a little bit of experience with the Catholic Church and going to church in Catholic churches and stuff. And I always respected the traditions of the Catholic Church. I always thought that was very cool. I thought it was much better than the kind of cavalier attitude that Protestant churches have, even though I am Protestant. So I respect both. I'm not one of these people who I'm very sort of sectarian or, I think that my Christianity is the right Christianity. I'm more of I'm easygoing. I kind of believe like if you believe in God and you believe in Christ and you're trying to do the right thing and you really you're trying to do what you think God wants you to do, you're good. Like, to me, that's a good Christian. Gorka is very Catholic. Very Catholic. Robert Davi is very Catholic. I will be interviewing a guy who I'm pretty sure is Catholic. I haven't talked to him about it, but he's a comedian. I'm going to interview him tomorrow. That video will come out in a couple of days. Hilarious comedian out of Italy. He lives in the UK. And one of his comedy videos went viral. I highly recommend checking it out. What's his name? I don't remember. Let me look quickly, and I'll let you know. I sent it to a few people. Oh, yeah. Okay. Look up pro-life comedian in London. His name is Nicholas DeSanto, and I'll be interviewing him shortly. I wrote him on Twitter as soon as I saw that video. I was like, that is amazing. This guy is hilarious. He's not just pro-life. He is, like, aggressively conservative. That guy's amazing. All right, I think we're good. I think that we're kind of winding down here. You guys are getting a little bit sick of me. I understand that. It's getting late. I'm glad we got to talk about Donald Trump's town hall. I think that was a lot of fun. If nobody has any other questions, Mrs. T. Rush, who I've spoken with many times, thank you for commenting. She writes, God made people unique and diverse. He reaches us where we are. I agree with that 100%. Fyodor says, have you birthed a child yet? No, I have not birthed a child yet, nor have I been part of that process. As far as I know, maybe there was one time years ago. I'm not sure. Anyway, on that bombshell, I'm going to go. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for joining me for this long. I think we wound down to a perfect time. Signing off from Dubai. Wish you all a great night. Okay, bye, Emiliano. Bye, you guys. You guys are the best fans on YouTube, and we're going to do this from now on every single week. We're going to do a 5 o'clock on Thursdays. We're going to do a live stream. Am I going to do it tomorrow? Probably not tomorrow because I did a live stream today. But maybe I'll jump on here and we'll get it started. I don't know if I'm going to have anything to say because I talked about everything today. But we're going to talk about all the news of the week every Thursday at 5. That's going to be my live stream. I'm going to do that consistently. So I will see you guys there, and we'll chat soon. Love you guys. All right. I'm ending the live stream. Good night.